We had a little ice storm here in Middle Tennessee, so it's a good chance to check the tolerance of different tree species for ice loading. The first one we have here is the native eastern red cedar, and this one I've been growing with a single trunk and also pruning any branches that tried to go vertical on the side, and I think it's paid off because it's really balanced. It's not leaning to either side, and the branches are drooping nicely without really making the tree lean in any one direction. So if pruned properly to have a single trunk, I think eastern red cedar can do very well in ice storms, even though on the roadside you see some bad examples of multi-trunk ones splitting. And here's the blue ice cultivar of Arizona cypress, and this one did well during previous snowstorms, and it did well during the ice storm as well. Single trunked, branches are drooping to shed the load somewhat, so it's good. There's one little one to the side down there I probably need to get rid of, but on the whole, I'd say it did well. And behind that, there's the Carolina Sapphire one. It's been scorched brown by the cold, but this is one that I trimmed pretty severely, and it looks like it paid off because it's not really leaning in any one direction. Next to that, the Berkey cultivar of the native red cedar, once again. These are doing very well, handling the load, no major leaning. So it wasn't that heavy of an ice storm, but so far they did good. Here's a close-up look at a Momi fir. Obviously there was no problem with snow loading. This is a very sturdy tree, but just wanted to show you the amount of ice we had. Pretty heavy on some of the upward-facing surfaces. But the storm didn't last that long, so a lot of the lower branches are not really covered. Only the extremities. The little magnolia held up pretty well against the ice. Pretty well coated. And next to that, a Norway spruce. Plenty of ice on the tops, but obviously Norway spruce is going to be able to handle pretty much any winter weather. The loblolly pines are pretty well weighted down. And here's the Vanderwolf pyramid. A little weighted down as well, but the pines held up well, I'd say. Not bad. Here's a close-up look at the amount of ice on these loblollies. It's pretty thick in places. If the storm had gone on longer, maybe it would have been a problem. And here's the incense cedar. I would say it did pretty well. There's a little bend at the top, but that's not a real issue. It's got a very strong and sturdy trunk. The branches seem to droop well. So incense cedar doing well. There's a close look at that ice coating there. Here's the biggest fail. The two slash pines are pretty much weighted all the way to the ground. The only reason this one here in the foreground didn't go down is because I've got it tied up a little bit, but the one that was untied basically hit the ground down here, so that's not very good. This Sweet Bay magnolia is also weighted down a lot here, totally bent over at the top, so that's a little surprising. I guess the trunk is not as strong as I thought on the Sweet Bay magnolia. Chinese hemlock is holding up very well. Pretty sturdy trunk, and the branches, even though they're coated in ice, it's not really drooping that much. And this Virginia pine also held up really well. Doesn't really have that much ice on it, actually. I guess since the needles are shorter, it doesn't accumulate as much ice. An interesting appearance on the Japanese umbrella pine with the ice. The Leland cypress got weighted down pretty much to the ground in a lot of cases. So did the Murray, but the main trunk has remained strong. Here's another Leland cypress, pretty weighted down, with the brown and orange cryptomeria on either side, and the cryptomeria held up very well. So did the Thuja green giant. No problems. They seem to handle winter weather of all types without any problem. A quick look at the Japanese plum yew. It held the ice with no problem. The wood appears to be strong.